Yeah, we're live. It's 7:27. A little on the late side. Fixing my lock there. How's everybody doing? Tonight we want to talk about something that I posted on social media today, both Facebook and Instagram, and it turned out fairly well. Guys were interested in it. We got a lot of feedback on it. And the question was fairly simple. So if you were, and we'll go over this obviously a couple times while people wander in. Excuse me. But here's the situation. So you're going down to a wrecking yard and you can only pick one motor. You only get one. I know we want all of them. I want to bring them all home because they're all like, they're wrecking yard puppies basically. So you go to the wrecking yard and you're going to go get a motor. We're going to pick LS stuff tonight. We did this with small block stuff last night, I think. And so, but the scenario is a little different. So we go to the wrecking yard. We're looking at LS motors. You have 3 to choose from. And I think in the social media thing I did 4, but we have 3 to choose from. Because the problem is, we would want to pick something, let's pick a factory supercharged one. Let's pick an LSA, let's pick an LS7 or an LS9 or whatever. And those are, and even an LS3 or an LS2, you're not going to find those. Those aren't in wrecking yards. They're all going to be truck motors, basically. So here are the 3 motors that you can pick from. We have an iron 4.8. We have an aluminum 5.3, and then we have an iron 6.0. So we could pick LR4, we could pick L33 or LC9 or whatever, and then we can pick, let's say, an LQ4. And so we're going to pick them for 2 things. So again, 4.8, 5.3, 6.0, an LR4, 4.8, an L33 or an LC9, aluminum 5.3, and then an iron LQ4 6-liter. So which one would you pick for NA? And then which one would you pick if you were going to go boosted, if you're going to do a build? I mean, later on, you can put a cam and that kind of stuff in there. We're not limiting it to what we did on the wrecking yard stuff later on. But which one do you get from the wrecking yard? And by the way, there is a 4th choice here. The 4th choice is any combination of those motors that you can put together from the wrecking yard. So if you want to combine stuff, you want to grab this off of that and this off of that and this off of that and all of those things, you can do all of that. So if you want to build a D-stroke thing, a hybrid, if you want to put some of the stuff in, if you want to make it a aluminum block 4.8 or whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you want to go crazy. And so there'll be 2 builds. One of them would be for your NA combination that you're going to take and ostensibly put a cam in it. You're going to keep the heads that you have from the wrecking yard, but you put a cam in it. Keep the intake manifold on it. And then the other one, you're going to then add boost to that, I guess. It'd be the same kind of thing. You're going to do a cam and springs and injectors and put boost to it. You don't have to go crazy on the aftermarket parts. Let's just say you're going to do a cam in it. And then the other one, you're going to do a cam and boost in it. So which one of those combinations? So think about it. Think about what you'd want to do, and then let me know. And I'll talk to you about what I want to do, and you guys can let me know in the comments. But we got a bunch of good suggestions. I've thought about this a lot because when I go to wrecking yards and I'm walking through the yard and I'm looking at all the LSs and I try to look at all the LSs, even if I'm not going to get one, if I'm looking for something else, I'm going there for big blocks or Atlases or Buicks or whatever I'm looking for, the 3800 stuff. I always look at the LSs because there might be something. There might be an L33 like I got. And if there's an aluminum motor or 6-liter, I might be tempted to go, you know what? I really don't need another one of these, but I really kind of want this one really bad. So for me, we'll start out with the NA builds. If I'm going to do an NA one, I immediately gravitate toward the biggest motor. I know that an aluminum one would be great. And maybe if I was road racing, that would be a consideration. But I think what I would do for an NA one is I would take the 6-liter. I would take the 317 heads off of it. I would take the 799 heads off of the aluminum 5.3 because all of those aluminum motors are going to have 799s or 243s. I will put those on the 6-liter. And then I would also grab, if it's an LC9, I would also grab the Trailblazer SS style intake manifold and put that on there. And then, from the junkyard, that would probably be, in terms of NA stuff, you're going to put a cam in it. That would probably be, the most powerful combination I think that you could put together. Obviously, other guys could go different ways. You know, you could do a 4.8 stroke crank and rods, put the 6-liter pistons on it, put it in the 6-liter block, have a D-stroke 6-liter essentially, a kind of like a bigger bore and short stroke 5.3-ish. You know, or around that kind of displacement, you could do that. Go, yeah, I want that short stroke so it revs. You could go that route, and then top it with whatever heads that you would want. You have 862, 706s, or 317s, or 799s to choose from, essentially, from any of those combinations. And then the different intake manifolds. I don't think there's any better choice in intake manifolds. You essentially have in those combinations. If assuming it's not an L33, that it would be like an LC9 or an LH6 or something. You have the truck manifold, and then you have a Trailblazer SS. There's really no choice there. I mean, the Trailblazer SS is better. The thing that I could understand where guys would pick the truck manifold for that sort of thing is that the Trailblazer SS is going to require a bigger throttle body. If you don't have a computer set up to run a drive-by-wire throttle body, you're going to have to buy another throttle body. And so some guys don't want to do that. Some guys don't want to spend the extra money on that. Having to get that intake manifold, you obviously could also get the throttle body from the truck manifold, maybe a manual one, you know, a drive-by-wire one, I guess, and then run a small adapter on, and you could make that work too. I think, and so that, you know, as like I said, the 6-liter, especially cammed, especially if you've stepped up on the cam size with those heads, and then you could do whatever you want. You could port them or mill them or do, you know, whatever those things are. It'd be nice if it's an LQ9 and not an LQ4, and then you have a flat top piston. It'd also be nice if it was an LY6 and it had rec port heads on it. Then it would make even more power. It also has a great manifold. Then you just put a cam in it, and then you make more power than any of those combinations are going to do that, because you have really, really good cylinder heads, much better than any of the cathedral port heads. But that really wasn't one of the options. If I do see 6-liters, I see way more, you know, LQ4s, maybe an LQ9 here and there. I don't think I've seen a rec port headed 6-liter in the wrecking yards that I've been going to, but I have seen the other 6-liters, and I have seen a couple of aluminum 5.3s in there too. Lots and lots of iron 4.8s and 5.3s. So there's no shortage of that stuff. And I've even seen more than a few, seen some front wheel drive ones, more than a few Trailblazer SS intake manifolds too, which I think are really good for factory stuff. So those are good. If I was going to do a boosted thing, I would just pick an aluminum 5.3 because I'm not really worried about the extra power potential of the 6-liter. Yes, a 6-liter would spool the turbo up better, and then maybe if I really wanted like lots of power, and then I would get a 6-liter so that it would spool up the big turbo that I'd have if I was vacillating back and forth about I'm going to make a street driver, but I also want a 1,500 horsepower street driver. I don't know why I would be in that sort of situation, but if I was and I wanted the thing to be responsive, then I would go with a bigger displacement motor and then maybe a stall converter and all that and figure all that out. But really, for what I would ever want to do in any kind of reasonable, you know, street performance thing, an aluminum 5.3 would be the way to go. I just would put ring gap in it, put head studs on it, put ARP stuff on it, put you know, good gaskets on it, put a low buck truck camshaft in, which is on sale right now. Put a low buck truck camshaft in it, put one of our, you know, G42 turbos on it, and then be able to go pretty far into, you know, 4-digit power levels if I wanted to do that. 1,000 horsepower on the street. It's fun. You spin the tires at 100 miles an hour instead of 60 or 70. That's all good. And you could make that work. But I'm curious to see what you guys have to say, you know, which direction you take. There's no, and in this, it's not a quiz. there's no wrong answer here. Whatever you pick, you know, some guys, for the same reason that people pick different camshafts and pick different combinations, sometimes there are things that we have. Sometimes our goal doesn't align with other people's goal. That's fine. That's your goal. You got some guys want, I just want low speed power. I just want a 4.8 and a manual trans so I can get good fuel mileage. Good, dude. That's awesome. Then take the aluminum motor and build the 4.8 in the aluminum motor so it's also less weight, so you improve your fuel mileage. So you can do all that. In which case, if I was doing the 4.8, I wouldn't put 317 heads on, obviously. wouldn't also put 799 heads on it. If I was going to do an aluminum headed version of a 4.8 or an aluminum block version of a 4.8, I would take the 4.8 internals, put them in the aluminum block, put the 862 heads on there, and then do that way. It's already going to have a decent cam in it. If it's an aluminum 5.3, it's going to have a little bit better camshaft than the LQ4 was. But if fuel mileage was my thing, I would use the LQ4 cam. I mean, the LR4 camshaft. I use the 4.8 cam. 4.8 and the LM7 kind of camshafts, same thing. I would use that probably for fuel mileage. I think that would be better than the, and maybe there would be no difference in a steady state cruise. But that's kind of the combination I think that I would go with if fuel mileage was my thing. But that's not what I was picking for my design for this, all of this. But if guys did, you know, more power to them, man. I'm all for it. All right, let's see what you guys picked. So okay, it's always best to pick the bigger, gotta work on my spelling, the bigger 6-liter motor over the aluminum 5.3 or the smaller 4.8. Is bigger better, basically. So we'll see what you guys got going on. 6-liter both ways, 6-liter, 6-liter. What's the closest and the cheapest? They're all the same price. And the wrecking yards that I go to, a 4.8, a 5.3, a 6.0, all exactly the same price. So there's no difference there. There is if you probably go out on the marketplace or wherever. There might be differences in pricing there, but not from the wrecking yard, or at least the ones that I go to haven't been. 6-liter or 706 heads, good for towing. Yep, Richard, real quick before I got to go. LM7 boosted. I know you say 28,000 for ring gap. Stock rings are 34 or 36 top ring. Is that too much? 36 seems like a lot on a 5.3. We've run stuff that's that loose, but there's no reason to have it that loose. I'm surprised that it's open that far. I don't know why it's the stock rings would be anywhere near that. Did you make sure that everything's lined up, that the ring is exactly square from the same distance for the ring all the way around from the top of the bore, and that they're not separated, there's not something weird going on? Because 36 seems like a lot. When we ground a bunch out of them, when I was doing some of the Big Bang stuff, we nudged up into that range. We ran them anyways, and it still works. But if I was putting one together and it was going in a vehicle, I don't think that I would go to 36. A 351 Windsor, that's what you'd pick for your LS, is a 351 Windsor. A 351 Windsor, like a stock 351 Windsor, and I like Ford stuff, but it still makes 60 or 70 less horsepower even than a 4.8 as a 5.8. L87 out of a truck with those junk Allison 10 speeds. I don't know what an L87 is. Aluminum 5.3, aluminum. I have a question about the 5.3 iron block, LM7 being bored to 4-inch. Can you boost a 4-inch bore? You should never, ever do that. I've seen guys go to 4-inch on those blocks before. And if you are going to go to 4-inch, you need to have them check the wall thickness. But there would be no reason to do that if you're going to run boosted, because you're going to make it weaker. And you're not gaining anything by doing that, because all you have to do is just turn it up 1 more pound to boost, and you have everything that you had by going bigger and making the situation way worse. Aluminum 5.3 for both, and a 6-liter. I'd go aluminum all day. I just bought an LY6 6-liter dropout, 5.3 NA and 6-liter turbo. That's interesting that that's the direction that you would go. Everyone, NA got to be 6-liter and 4.8 with all the boost. Aluminum 5.3 with boost, iron 6-liter, and then finding a set of some 823 heads, both boosted in NA. I've never seen any of those in wrecking yards, but they are available out there. 6-liter all the way, iron or aluminum 6-liter. Boost is NA with a multiplier. A stroked and cam 6-liter. 6-liter 28X or 6-liter 58X for turbo build. Yeah, there's no there's no 6-liter 58Xs in this scenario. They're all going to be 20. They're all going to be 24 because they're going to be early ones. Because that's just what I've seen more in the wrecking yards I've been to. Stroke 6-liter to 6.7, big camshaft, ported heads. I'd like to build a 5.3, turn into a 383 with an LSA supercharger on it. Okay. Related to your 4.3-liter V6 videos of a 1990 Marine non-balance shaft. I installed the 113 VORTECH style heads, 1.6 exhaust valves, performer intake, 4160 carb. Okay. I'm curious why you went up just an exhaust valve size. And did you obviously had to cut the seats for that, right? And did you do any porting or anything on it? I bought a truck cam from you. Can I use it with stock springs? No, you cannot. You can, well, I take that back. You can use it with stock 550 lift springs that would have been in any rec port cylinder head, and then some of the 799 and 243 heads. So an LS2, an LS3, any of those factory springs, you can use it, but you cannot use it with a 500 lift 706, 862, most of the 317 heads that I've seen, you can't use it in a 500 lift spring. So you will need springs, but the cam and the springs are on sale. And the springs are inexpensive. Off topic, I have a 305 Mercruiser engine in my 90 model truck. Doesn't make power until above 2200. I'm wondering if I degree the cam if it would lower the torque RPM. I don't know. That sometimes it does that, sometimes it doesn't. If you haven't done any tuning, oftentimes that can do it. Your rear gear has a big effect. Your converter has a big effect on that stuff down low. Alan, you got an aluminum 5.3 on the stand right now. Very cool. How much power gain from 799 over 706 on a natural aspirated 6-liter for the street? Well, you can take a look at the test that I did on 706s versus 799s on a cammed 6-liter that I have up. The 799s make less power up to 5,000, and then they made 10 or 12 on the top. I bought a Lubbock truck cam from you a few weeks ago. Is it normal for it not to have any markings on it? Yes, it won't have any markings on it. It's about to get forged 9-to-1 pistons for my stroke 347 to eventually boost it, but was told it would smoke and burn if I set the gaps. A way to set it up without burning oil. Yeah, that's none of that's accurate. We increase the ring gap all the time, and every piston manufacturer and ring manufacturer will tell you exactly the same thing, that when you're setting your motor up, if you're setting it up for boost, you set it up with more ring clearance. Now, when the motor's driving around for 90% of its time on a turbo motor or a blower motor, it's not running boost. It's running NA. It spends most of its life running NA. And so the extra ring gap isn't hurting you. So if you're driving around without a turbo or a blower on it, you're doing the same thing. You're just never going into boost. And so the upshot of all that is it will be fine. I just made a margarita. Very nice. Summit 8704 cam. I don't know what the specs are on that. Are good pistons, crank, cam, etc. the same price among all LSs? I don't know. I don't know if a 4-inch bore piston is a different price than a 3780 or a 3810. I just don't know. I think probably it's more has to do with the manufacturer and the metallurgy that they're using, because there are different types of aluminum that they use for pistons, for forged pistons. So that might be a bigger difference than the size is. But an aftermarket 4-inch crank that you would use on a 6-liter and a 4.8 and a 5.3 block, those are all the same. The rods are all the same. Have you tested back pressure difference between a GTX 3584, 83 and a 121? I don't know if, I can't remember if we got back pressure readings or not. I'd have to take a look at the data that I have. We tested power on it, and I think, because I don't think we had the 121 when we were on the engine dyno. I don't think we have back pressure for those two. I don't think. I mean, not as a comparison. .48 aluminum is top motor for a sports car. I was wanting to build an aluminum 4.8. Yeah, that'd be good. The thing that I would say with building an aluminum 4.8 is the same thing that I say about de-stroking a 6-liter. Just don't do an aluminum 4.8. Just use the 5.3. It just makes more power everywhere. Came across your channel and videos, helped me a lot. I need a 4L80 for a build, 5.3 for a similar to a 500 horsepower build you got on your channel. I don't know about transmissions. I mean, I don't know where to source them. You can get 4L80s from the wrecking yard, but you might, I mean, a 4L80, if it's an NA 500 horsepower build, should probably be fine if you find a good one. Need a cold, frosty cold beverage. Even Corvette racing team uses a 5. No such thing as aluminum 4.8. There is if you take an aluminum 5.3 block and just put 4.8 internals in it. In my case, aluminum 6-liter, 243 heads, Trailblazer SS. Got the engine with a collapsed lifter for 150. Sold the lifters to someone who needed one for 100. So into it for $50. The Chupacabra cam. Nice. In my area, 6-liter brings 2 or 3 times the price of a 4.8. Yeah, like I said, at marketplace and stuff, when people are selling them, there's different valuations for a 6-liter versus a 4.8 versus an iron 5.3 versus an aluminum 5.3. Definitely different. But in the wrecking yards that I go to, there's no difference. It's just a motor, and that's all that they care about. Aluminum 6-liter is the king. There's no 6-liter. There's no aluminum 6-liter as one of the choices. It was an iron 6-liter, an aluminum 5.3, and an iron 4.8. Corvette C5R uses a 5.5 liter. They said 427 is too much torque. Yeah, they're that's not a thing. That's not too much torque. If you take a look at the Eureka Viper teams that ran their V10s, they had, I guess, too much torque too. Stock LY6 is going to be NA. What would you do with it? Well, I have endless LY6 stuff up. You can look to your heart's content. We've run it with 706 heads, 799 heads, the 821 heads or 823 heads, whatever they are, the stock ones. We run it with a bunch of different manifolds. We run it with, I don't know, 10 different camshafts. You just get to pick whatever sort of power curve you want for that thing. We ran it with that's the motor that we used to run the Big Bang stuff, so it made 1500 plus horsepower. L87. Oh, the L87, yeah, the later, the newer version of the L86. I got it. Reminds me of the Fiero guy who used to bore out 2.8 V6 blocks to 3.4 back in the day. Cylinder rolls for paper thin. That seems like a lot. I mean, wouldn't you just put like a 3400 in there? Got a low buck truck cam for you a few weeks ago. Is it normal? Yeah, we talked about that. I'm getting ready to do turbo cam on my first 5.3. Do I need a turbo specific cam? I kind of go with a hot rod or red hot cam. I've been told both ways. It doesn't matter. You should pick the cam not because it's a turbo cam or not a turbo cam. You should pick the cam so that it does the thing that you want a cam to do NA. So what idle quality do you want? Do you want it to make good low speed power? Do you want it to have chop? You know, all of those things. And then just put a turbo on it because it will work fine. And I've tested for a 5.3, I wouldn't recommend a red hot or a hot rod cam for it if you're doing a turbo. For a turbo, I would recommend a smaller cam. If you're going to get a BTR one, which they make excellent things, get a Truck Norris cam for a turbo application. Don't get a stage 1 or stage 2 turbo cam. That's not what you want. You'll be much happier with a Truck Norris cam. You can also get our low buck truck cam, Chupacabra. Our low buck truck cam is less money than all of those, but get that kind of cam and then put a boost on it. And I have endless videos up of us running. I mean, we made, you could make 4-digit power levels depending on the power output that you make is just a function of the turbo that you use. And we've got turbos on sale right now. So if you want 800 or 1,000 or 1,200 or whatever, you could just pick the turbo that you want. And that camshaft will do that with any of those. So it will work. I wish I even needed a 4.8 or a V8. And inline 6 is plenty. There. Someone has to put the Impala front-wheel drive 5.3 in a Civic or something. Yeah, that would be good. What's the displacement of a stroke 6-liter? Most people put a 4-inch crank in it and then bore it 30 over, and they make a 408 out of it. 799 heads on a 6-liter with a truck plus and springs. What kind of timing can I expect? NA. Do you mean what kind of ignition timing would you run? It will run best with 29 degrees of total timing at the horsepower peak. You might not be able to get away with that in the car with the thing at 200 degrees or whatever you're running it at on pump gas. You're just going to have to run enough timing that you can run and not have detonation. What's the bore size of a 5.3? It's 3,780 and the 6-liter is 4-inch. Get away. The hybrid trucks have an aluminum 6-liter LFA. Good luck finding one. Yeah, you won't find those. Freight 5.3 iron can be bored to 3.898 safely. Beyond that, needs speed, non-destructive testing. We go to 3.902 or 3.905, which is another common piston size, but that size is just a standard 5.7 piston size. What's my favorite engine? I don't really have one. It's whatever the next one I'm testing is. L86 was out in 2019. The L87 came out in 2022. Running my 2000 LS1 block with a Summit Pro 383 Ford stroker, 243 heads, 921 compression, 7875 turbo, sloppy best cam, bumping to 15 psi, hoping for no Bluetooth rods. Do you have, if you put 4 pistons in it, if you break those, it's from tuning. It's not. I mean, we've done like 15 pounds on that is going to be a fairly good bit of, I don't know what, the best cam. It's going to be a fairly good bit of power. Unless you're trying to run that on pump gas. I want an LS engine, just chilling. I took off my heads. Do I have to resurface them or can I put them back on like that? If you took your heads off of a running motor, you just put them back on. What's your favorite camshaft? For what? Just logged on, was on your site and had a question. 408, 317 head, sloppy best cam. That's what I currently have. Which turbo yours do you recommend? 1050 or 1200. Well, you got to tell me how much power you're going to make. If you have a 408, I probably would get a G40, a 42, the 1200. I have a rebuilt 6.2 L92, the truck Norris cam. Should I spend $4,000 on a Hellcat supercharger and adapter kit, or buy a different supercharger and only having a stock engine and goals of 600 to 700 horsepower? Is a Hellcat supercharger that much? I mean, a 6.2 L92, well, not with that cam, but because that's a fairly small cam. But are there any other lower dollar supercharger things that you can get for 700 horsepower? 2.2 Shelby Dodge Turbo Video Part 2. I don't have any videos on the 2.2 going right now. Our flat tab piston is good. Yes. Or are you talking, you mean flat top pistons, I'm thinking? 3908 piston in a 5.3 LM7 with a 4-inch stroke, Mass Motorsport heads. A 3908 seems like a weird number to me. I've never seen that. 252 intake. 99 exhaust. I don't know what that is. Can you run a cam made for rec port heads on a cathedral port headed motor? Yeah, take a look at the video that I did where we compared a cathedral port cam and a rec port cam, both on cathedral port heads and on rec port heads. It doesn't matter. I don't know what your specs are. I don't know what the 99 exhaust is. I'm thinking that's 252. 252 is a really big. If it's 252 at 50, that's a really big cam, especially on that's a 383, 385, or 388 or something like that, especially on that size motor. That's way bigger than I would run, unless that's not at 50. So Shadow Ops, you got your thing running good? That's good. I have a conservative tune with not a ton of timing, and I'm on California. Yeah, well, we make good power with the 91 octane in California. That's where we do all of our testing with. When I do pump gas, that's what we use at Westech. A lot of times I run E85 on the boosted stuff. But because we run the motors cold, we can run full timing with lots of compression on 91. Favorite engine's free. Yeah, I don't get too many of those. About your guys seem like they're doubling up on their posts here. T56 trans. I still need to tune, but no longer worrying about losing power steering. Preparing my wallet for a K24-5 manual trans swap for a 07 Accord. Can you stock everything? 5.3 board, 20 over, BTR boosted piston, AFR head, sloppy stage 3. Can I use VSR 6762 turbo? Yeah, 6762 is not going to be very big. And that's not the cam that I would use. I don't know what intake you have, and I don't know what you're trying to get done here. Typically what happens is, and I was just talking to Lucky today about a turbo thing he's doing. We're going to help him with the turbo and stuff. But 90% of the people are happier with a smaller cam that makes power down low, much more so than they are a bigger cam that makes power up top. Because when you step on the gas, you want the car or truck or whatever to go. You take somebody for a ride, you want to impress them. You want it to go. You want to spin the tires. It doesn't matter that it storms hard on the big end. You'd like it to do both of those ideally, but that's not what's going to happen. Same thing with turbos. 90% of the people are happier with a smaller, much more responsive turbo than they are a turbo that makes 1 billion horsepower, unless you're drag racing and you have a two-step or a quick spool valve or a high stall converter or whatever it is that you need to manipulate the situation, your engine combination, to get the turbo spooled up and to be able to leave, and you have traction. You have all that. That's all fine. But a guy on the street, he wants to stomp on the gas and he wants to have boost on a turbo combination and he wants the thing to go. Lots of things don't help that. Short runner intake manifolds, obviously really tall highway gears. A stock converter is worse on that. A big turbo that makes a lot of power, but it's not very, not very responsive. A bigger cam, stage 3 cam in a 5.3 definitely qualifies as a big cam. Clarify, looking for something responsive with minimum lag for a street truck on my 1050 or 1200 question. Do you want, I know, but do you want 1,000 horsepower or more? Or are you wanting 600 or 700 horsepower? Because whatever power output you want is going to make the response thing easier. If you're never going to do 1200 horsepower, if you're not ever putting that to the ground or whatever, you're not utilizing that, then let's not do that. Let's do a more responsive turbo that will make it much more responsive. And if you're not worrying about the big end stuff, I have a 6.2 cam springs looking to make 7 to 800. What turbo is needed? I need a T4 or T6 flange on E85. For a 6.2 for 800, since you're saying 7 to 800, you really mean 900 or 1,000 later on in the future. You should get our G42. I don't know what cam you have. We have T4 versions now of our turbos. I don't recommend them. I recommend the V-band flange turbos because they're better. They flow better and they're more responsive than a T4. But we have T4s because people are so used to them and they use them a lot. And I've been a big fan of T4s for years. So we have those. So you can go to the richardholdnerperformance.com. You can order up a T4. G42 is what I would recommend for your 6.2. It's going to be, as long as you don't have a cam that's too big and you don't have a short runner intake manifold, it's going to be really responsive. Do you have any used superchargers for sale? I do not. Well, I do. I have M90s, but that's not what you would want. Jeff, let's see, what was your thing here? Oh, so you have a sloppy stage 3 and a AFR heads and then a Trinity intake manifold. So you want to make power out at like 7,500 or 8,000 RPM. Is that what you're trying to do? 3,600 stall. Okay. For the street, I think it's best to have an engine with good low end torque. Let the turbo fill out the top end. I agree. Having the thing be more responsive is way better. But for drag racing, RPM obviously helps. 3,600 BTR intake. And then Jeff, how much power are you wanting to make? El Jefe. The cylinders need to be bored out. I'm going to need oversized pistons. Jeff, you're on to make 600 to 700? Dude, you got the wrong combination, man. Everything's wrong about it. I mean, it looks good. I love the guys at BTR and that intake manifold. I have one. They look fantastic, but it's the wrong intake manifold for that power level. Unless you want you don't need high RPM for that power level. Really, for 600 to 700 horsepower, a stock 5.3 with our low buck truck camshaft in it and a GTX 3584 RS or a G35 is all that you need for that. And with a truck manifold and stock heads and all that, it's so easy with boost. I'm sure you're excited to test the BTR heads once they're available. Yeah, they have some prototype heads that I can test. 5 through the Truck Plus and a 1200 single turbo. Where should the power range be with 799s? You can make 1,000 plus with that. You probably could max the turbo out. Pretty sure you could. I mean, we've done with that turbo and on a 5.3, and I don't think it was a Truck Plus cam. I think it was the low buck truck camshaft, which is smaller than that. I mean, we did 930 or 940 at just 15 pounds. So you could make all the power. It's not a problem. I hate my short runner intake, but I like having stock hood. No, it is important. I mean, a lot of your high rams and truck manifolds and some of those stuff just doesn't fit. But and the guys at BTR, Brian in particular, who I love, he's fantastic. There's obviously a market for that because there's guys that want to go drag race and there's guys that want that to fit under the hood of a Corvette, of an F body or whatever. Everybody doesn't have enough room for a tunnel rammy kind of intake manifold, even though they work fairly well. But that short runner manifold, and if RPM is your friend and you want it to fit under the hood and you're laying the boost to it, it works good. Not that the manifold is necessarily a turbo manifold, because that's not really a thing. It's an RPM manifold. And make sure if you get a turbo that you get a manual boost controller too. And if you get springs, get a valve spring compressor. Just just make your life easier. It's just way better. And also thank you for everybody that's supporting the store and the channel and all that. It's obviously this is a very busy time because the Black Friday time is just really busy for all the people. That's why we put all the stuff on sale. Can you tell us about Lucky on the rear mount turbos on Butternut? Would love to do something similar with my 496 and my 67 Chevelle. Yeah, I am going to be doing some stuff with him on that. So it'll be cool. I want to go down and see it. I haven't been down to his shop, so I want to kind of go down and check everything out. Putting a Gen 5 LT1 into a 79 Malibu drag car, keep direct injection or port injection. The thing that I worry about with going to port injection on that is the intake, or the piston design. And so you can go with port injection. There's port injection manifolds for those, but I don't know how much power you can run with the piston designs without direct injection and get into the detonation problem. That might be a good question for Ben Strader. He might know. I bought a 5.3 anyway. I can tell if it's good for installing it. I'm new to LSs. Yeah, if you can crank it over on a stand, which is not impossible to do, if you can crank it over and do a compression test, that's good. You can definitely do a leak down test. If you have a leak down tester and access to compressed air, you can do that. And usually if it spins and if it has fire in all the holes, usually it's pretty good. Cylinder filling versus compression ratio. What is your question about that? You got to be way more specific than that. I also bought your truck cam for it. Very good. Need 2X shirts. Are there none on there? I don't know what shirts are left. If it spins, it wins. Compression test. Yep. All that. Put a starter on it. Do a compression test. Where is Lucky now? He's still in the same place. I think he's down in. I think he's down in Southern California. Got a 5.7, made sure it rotates. We try to check that when we're at the wrecking yard. The easiest way is to pull all the plugs out. Sometimes it's hard to access that. Sometimes I don't even do that. Sometimes I don't check anything. So here's how much I don't check things sometimes. I just went around and picked a motor and then went back to Westech. And I paid a guy $100 or whatever to pull the motor out for me, which was good because then I could be back dyno testing all day like I'm doing. And he pulled that one out. He pulled a 4.8 out. And I didn't even look at it till I got back to Westech. I mean, I loaded it up, everything. When I got back to Westech, it had a big hole in the pan because the motor was broke. It's not good. Else guys should look at crazy power import guys are making on stock cams and choose accordingly. I don't know as a universal thing that I would agree with that. If you look at a K series Honda cam specs, if you look at B series, like a Type R cam specs, if you look at those are performance cams and they're 4-valve motors. So it's a different thing. You're not going to make a lot of power with a stock LM7 camshaft. It's going to take 1 million pounds of boost to do that. Which one of your cams would you recommend for a boosted 6-liter? Well, the boosted part of it isn't part of the equation. All of the cams that we have, all of the cams that anybody has are a boosted 6-liter cam. So that's not the question. The question is, what do you want the cam to do? How do you want it to idle? Do you want it to work with a stock converter? Do you want it to have chop? What do you want out of the cam? They're all going to work with a turbo. That's not going to be a problem. What are my thoughts on Gen 6 5.7 engines from GM? I don't know. They don't tell me anything. I don't have access to any information on any things that would be coming up other than what I might read online. I bought a new daily, so my whole daily is a project car. That's how it works. That's the evolution of project cars. Where do I go to purchase merch? Well, we have a store. It's richardholdnerperformance.com. And there we have some shirts there. We have stickers, but mostly we have performance products. So turbos and intercoolers and well, I don't know if the intercoolers are up, but wastegates are, injectors, cam springs, lifters, trunnion upgrades. We're a BTR dealer, so anything that BTR sells, we have. So whatever you need, we got it. We got you. Is it always best? Always best to pick the bigger 6-liter over the aluminum 5.3 or the smaller one, 57.43 on the yes for the bigger 6-liter stuff. GM Authority shows 5.7 and 6.6. It wouldn't surprise me that they, because they have that, they have the 6.6 version. And so that they would just continue with that because they've got a lot of tooling for that. And a 5.7 is a natural thing. GM came for full circle back to the 5.7, 6 liters of awesome. so they've got Trans Am motors now. Probably the Pontiac guys are just loving it, right? Only 2 displacements. I think that's all that they need. I mean, they're doing. If you look at the success of their, well, I don't know how successful the LT stuff is. They've obviously been problematic, and I love the way that the trucks look. If I was getting a new truck, I would love to get a new GM truck, but I will not buy a new GM truck. I will not buy an LT based truck, unfortunately, because I think that the engines are problematic. But I do love the way they look, and I wish that they had a non-problematic motor in them. But maybe the new ones will be better. But if you look at the displacements that they have had, I'm surprised that they don't have a smaller one. The base engine is usually like that 5.3. But 5.3 and 6.2, and then the bigger one for heavy duty stuff. L8T is a 6.6. Gen 6 is an improvement. Yeah, I would expect nothing less. I mean, we should expect more power out of any of the modern stuff. BTR truck cam, stage 3 truck cam. Any benefit to go to sloppy stage 2? No, you're nitpicking there. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't change the cam if the motor's in the car running around. I wouldn't change the cam for that. Should I change my 317 heads to 799 to my 6-liter if I don't want to spend tons on a turbo kit? Yeah, if you're going to keep it NA, that would be a good change. How long is the Black Friday sale going to go on? Black Friday for us is going to go on while we have stuff in stock, which it's selling really fast. My coworker has a 2022 with a 5.3. Is a 2022 still an L83 or is that an L84 now? Going to Johnson Valley this weekend. It's supposed to snow. 6-liter is 40 cubes bigger. Does that mean it's automatically 40 horsepower out of the box? Well, that would only be the case if it made 1 horsepower per cubic inch, which it doesn't. It actually makes a good bit more than that. But the nice thing is it's going to be better everywhere. It's just not going to add 40 horsepower at the top. If it did that, it's probably going to add more than that if you look at the specific output of it. But it's going to add a lot more torque. If you go take a look at the video I did where we compared a stock 4.8 and a 5.3 and a 6.0 and look at the difference in torque. Don't look at the difference in peak horsepower. That's not nearly as important for most people. 5.3 had a good run, 99 to 2025. And you could almost argue that the 327 back in the day was a 5.3. GM abandoned inline engines. L84 housed the LT6. 5.3 was a 325. 5.7 LS is a 346. Or the 5.7 that they called the L98 and the LT1 were 350s. Because, you know, let's do that. And then they also had all of these alphanumeric designations. A lot of them they had way before that. Like a Gen 4 6L80 90 trucks, but Gen 3 is definitely the most reliable. Any idea what a typical VE of an L33 and LC9 with a big cam would be? I can look and see what what ours did. The one that made 540, but I don't know how. I don't know if something with a better intake manifold on it wouldn't have done better. The torque number would have been much better. Dyno results, yo. Cathedral port, 5.3. Holder, cam tests. Not that one. Single plane versus dual plane. Truck. Heat range. Test data. Where's our modified super upgrade? Here we go. Okay, yeah, so that's 540. I don't think we have a VE number because I don't think we had air. We didn't have any air hat on it. Nope, we didn't. All I have is BMAP. Yeah, I don't really remember running air hats on any of the fuel injected stuff. BMAPs could be in the 190s for a really good LS. Not a super good. I mean, they're up there pretty high. How do you feel on sloppy mechanic stage 2 kits on a 6-liter carb single plane intake manifold? Yeah, I think I would go with the sloppy stage 3. Don't get the Amazon ones or the eBay ones. Get like real Elgin cams. And a sloppy stage 3 on a 6-liter with a single plane. And I'm not a big fan of those carburetor. I mean, of those intake manifolds on LSs because they don't seem to work fairly well. But if you are doing that and putting that on there, it will work. And then with the bigger cam, it'll make a lot of power on the big end, which is kind of what you want probably. And I think you'll like it. Would you personally take a 6-liter over an aluminum 5.3? Yeah, I went over all that this earlier. For a particular application, it depends. 4.3 adjust exhaust valves because watching many other YouTubers showing the larger intake valves actually lose power until RPM is above my operating range. Okay. I've never seen anybody do a test. I've never seen one where all they did was port the exhaust and then do a back-to-back dyno test and showed me that that actually did anything. I've never seen that. I'm not saying it does or it doesn't. I don't know. I would like to see that. And I've had guys ask me, can you do a test where you just port the exhaust and then run it and then take it back off and then port the intake and then do it? Or what they wanted was just port the exhaust on one head and then make sure that the other head's the same, and then just port the intake on the other on the thing and test that, and then obviously do both of them. And yeah, that's a lot. Exhaust valve improved through the whole range. I'd like to see a back-to-back test on that. Of all the LS engines, it seems the LS1, LS6 is the least desirable, or maybe LS2. I completely disagree with that. They're harder to find. Certainly an LS6 because it would be very, very low production runs for an LS6. They're hard to find. LS1s we don't find anymore because they're really, really old. I mean, they're from 97, 98. And they didn't make very many of them, because on an LS1, they made a lot more LS1s than they made LS6s, because it was the base motor for the Camaros and the Corvettes, but they didn't ever offer those in trucks. So all of the truck engines, they made millions of. The Camaro and Corvette stuff, they made hundreds of or thousands of, not nearly what they made of truck stuff. So it's not that they're not desirable, it's just that you can't find them. Like an LS6, if you found it, people would definitely want that. An LS2, people would want that. Stock V is 90 to 92. Stock LS, so it would tickle 100. 6 liters don't fit in everything. Sometimes you need 4.8 or 5.3. A 4.8 or a 5.3 or a 6.0 are all identical size. They're all exactly the same external dimension. There's no difference in that. On the poll question, that depends on the application. I go with an aluminum block because taking 100 pounds off the nose is more important than power. Hear me out. Ford 6.2 dyno testing. It's basically a big block modular. Okay. Engine 7/8 and a Gen 3 LS6 is technically a Gen 3.5 because it has Gen 4 stuff. Inch and 7/8 versus 2-inch headers for a 427 LS, building a custom set. I don't have an answer to that. In all the testing I've done, 1 3/4, 1 7/8, and 2 inches, we haven't seen a big change. The time that I did see a big change in that was when we ran a supercharged 5.4 4-valve motor, and we did some of that testing with Kenny Bell stuff, and it made a difference there. But on the LS stuff, it didn't seem to make a big difference. And I did a header test like that. I don't remember if we had a 2-inch set on a 427, and it wasn't a lot. I believe later down the road, I want to do the Elgin 1841 cam. Yeah, that's a good one. Just got the LQ9, best cam for the street. I need more information than that. How do you want it to idle? Do you want it to chop? Are you using a stock converter? What's all that stuff? What's the rest of the motor? Is it all stock? Going back to fuel injection on my 5.3, started not very well. Okay. GT40 intake, B303, VORTECH A trim. A trim is really going way back. It's always better to pick the 6-liter 60/40. We're going to end our poll there. And 2-minute warning. 2 and 2. Chuck Woolery. Oh, man. Man, that's the sorest my legs have been for a long time, running with the dogs. I don't know what I did. But whatever it is, it's not friendly. Just got turbo and wastegate. I think I just saw that. I was just clicking over. Are you Robert? G42 wastegate. Nice. I think that's what I'm going to be sending to Lucky. If you have a good LS, use it no matter what size it is. Yeah, there's really no bad choice. Like if a guy said, Richard, I went to the wrecking yard and I got a 4.8, I'm like, dude, I'm all in on that. That's fantastic. That is an excellent choice. And if he said, Richard, I went to the wrecking yard and I got a 5.3, oh, dude, I'm all in on that. That is a fantastic choice. Richard, I found a 6-liter. I found an aluminum 5.3. Look, dude, I'm all in. That's fantastic news. I'm all in on that. All of those are good. There's like no bad choice. I mean, you have no idea. Like I do want a 6-liter a little more. I do want an aluminum motor, 5.3 or whatever, a little bit more. But when I go see a 4.8 or a 5.3, I also want those. 100 pounds on the nose is a big difference in a 2,500 pound car. Yes, that's a lot. It's not a lot on a 4,000 or 5,000 pound truck, but on a 2,500 pound car, it means a lot. If you want stock converter, you do well with the BTR stage 1 and 2 truck cams, along with TSP stage 1 low lift truck cam. Yeah, the The low buck truck works fine with a stock converter. We have that running. In fact, we have a truck plus right now running around in Jimmy's Tahoe with a 5.3 and a stock converter. With a converter, any cam or even stock ones work better. It will work with a cam. It will drive around. And so that works. I don't think I would pick a truck plus with a stock converter. I mean, he drives it around. He drives around every day and it works fine. But I don't think that that's what I would pick. I'm a little more conservative in my cams and stuff. The Ripper cam, definitely stock converter usage. Chop a 3000. Okay. B2 cams aren't too bad. No, that's all good stuff. I'm still rocking an Incon twin system. Nice. That is old school. That's cool stuff, man. I remember lusting after those back in the day. Aluminum 5.3 and an S10 or a 6-liter. Are you turbocharging the thing in it? First of all, awesome. S10 LS swap. That's fantastic. I kind of want one of those. Jimmy and I have been talking about that. An aluminum one is great. If I was doing NA, I would get a 6-liter. If I was doing a turbo thing, it would be an aluminum 5.3. If you were doing any sort of road course things, I would do an aluminum one. Does it feel like a job, or do you wake up excited to test new stuff? Every day that I can get down to the dyno or to a chassis dyno or do some kind of test, even when I put the boost gauge in my Omni and went out in the countryside and was trying to film and drive, that's just awesome. It's just fantastic. I'm so excited about. I need to get down and work on it because it's going to get colder and colder, and I'm not going to want to go do it. Putting the Sprint together, I am like ecstatic about hearing that thing run and being able to test stuff and being able to test and tune that thing and go, look, I want it to run at 11.0 air fuel and I want to run with 25 degrees of timing or whatever it is. Being able to do that and not having to go through what I went through before with vane meter clicks and adjustable fuel pressure regulators and all the rigmarole that I did to try to get I'm like, we have more turbo here. We can go up. We can make more power. But we don't have the tuning ability. I didn't want to blow it up. For time being, Truck Norris on a 5.7 on a stock 1800. Yeah, squad goals. Buy my 2000 S10 Blazer for your LS swap. Is it more than $800? 5.3 because you can always bore into a 6-liter if needed. I wouldn't ever do that. I'm against that. I want to test it. I want to do a 4.8 just so that's a 4.8 with a 6-liter bore because that's way cooler. And I'm sure that guys have done it, and I'm sure that you can do it. I'm sure that it'll run. It's not something I would ever recommend for somebody that's doing anything with boost. Is the web store your day job, or do you have a regular day job? This is my day job. Doing YouTube is my day job. The store is a second job. An S10, you want a 2001 and newer, can use factory ECU pin on LS harness and reflash ECU as a V8. Oh, that's good information. I have an aluminum 5.3 and an S10. I also have a 6-liter on the floor looking at me. That's very good. You know what I have to do now? Now you're going to make me go down the rabbit hole on these S10s. I'll go and look and see which ones I like better, and then see which ones are more pricey because I also want a GTR, a Skyline. But there's a big difference between the price between an R33 and R34. Stupid Fast and the Furious movies. Go with the BTR Stage 2. Okay. No bad choices over BTR. Those guys are fantastic. 2004 Blazer. I'm putting a 6-liter in. That's also good. Is it an S10 Blazer? Is it the little Blazer? Because those are cool. I like those. And I think if I'm not correct, if I remember correctly, it has been more than a minute when I called a 1 minute. S10 4-door 4-wheel drive. Yeah, I don't. Jimmy wants all-wheel drive everything, but I don't know that I would want an all-wheel drive one. It would be cool. Are valve springs required for low boost 6 pounds on the stock 6-liter? No, if you have a stock cam, it should be fine. I have aluminum 4.6 Ford block, but I want a 5.3 aluminum LS block. Yeah, it's probably better. But we got way more stuff to talk about. But guess what? There's always tomorrow. So I will be back tomorrow.